What's up everyone, it's Frank from 5AM Ramen, and today we're going to be having the best Hachioji Ramen. Hachioji is a city in West Tokyo and they've got top-notch ramen restaurants. It's pretty urban around here, but they've also got some beautiful scenery with Mount Takao nearby. Let's dive into the deep Hachioji ramen scene starting now. For those here for the first time, 5AM Ramen is your dedicated ramen channel, bringing you the very best ramen from Japan. I sacrifice my body for the greater good. I grew up in Tokyo and have eaten thousands of bowls of ramen up to now. We're in the city of Hachioji today, right on the western edge of Tokyo and close by to the famous hiking spot Mount Takao and a vast forested area. We'll actually check out Mount Takao towards the end of the video, so stick around until then. As hinted earlier, Hachioji is a city that deeply loves its ramen. There are ramen shops everywhere. Let's get to it. Hachioji ramen shop number 1. So I'm making my way to the first ramen shop of the day, which is called Niboshi Iwashi Ramen N. Now Niboshi are dried sardines and this place is definitely about highlighting them in the soup. The Niboshi that they use are from Kujikuri, which is in Chiba, but on top of the broth there's also some chicken oil. And this ramen shop N is super highly rated. They're one of the most famous shops for Niboshi ramen in all of Tokyo. Let's see what they're all about. N, for short, is about a 10-minute walk from Hachioji Station. And I've arrived. I ordered 2 of their Niboshi Iwashi Ramen. One koikuchi, or dark soy sauce ramen, and the other usukuchi, or lighter soy sauce ramen. Both have that wonderful Iwashi Niboshi, or dried sardine flavor, but it's elegantly subdued, which I'll talk about right now. Okay, so finished my 2 bowls at Niboshi Iwashi Ramen N. Now I got both the usukuchi and the koikuchi shoyu, or the lighter and the darker soy sauce. In terms of differences, the dark soy sauce is definitely a bolder flavor, whereas the lighter one, even though the salt content is higher, is definitely lighter, as per the name. Now with the dark soy sauce, it does mask a little bit of that Niboshi or dried sardine fish flavor, whereas with the lighter one, that Niboshi flavor comes out to play a little bit more. There's a certain gentleness to both of them in terms of how they taste. Niboshi ramen can be very bitter. Some styles are really heavy on the Niboshi, but these two, not the case. And I think it was also very well balanced because of the chicken oil that they sprinkle on top. So you don't have just the fish flavor there. Thin, straight noodles that had a wonderful weedy aroma to them. In terms of appearance, it definitely has this classic sort of elegance to it. For toppings, there were memma bamboo shoots. I also decided to add an egg, but otherwise pretty minimalistic. And the chashu pork was kind of in between chewy and also being soft enough, let's say. But I think the highlights for me were definitely the soup and those delicious noodles. Great bowls, great ramen shop. For reference, here's another famous Hachioji ramen shop, Hokkori Chukasoba Motsuke. This place serves an equally high-level bowl that's similar in style to N. Their signature ramen carries a slightly stronger chicken flavor though, with the Niboshi and fish more in the background. They also use an aroma oil that's fused with garlic and vegetables. Excellent Hokkaido wheat noodles too. Just make sure to arrive outside of the 12 p.m. lunch peak. This place has the biggest lineup in Hachioji. At ramen shops, I always make sure to go for either an early lunch or a late lunch. Another great Hachioji ramen shop is Toribian Soba Miya Miya. They go in an even more chicken direction with their ramen. The soup carries a deep chicken flavor from whole chickens, and with a bold soy sauce lighting the way. This bowl looks closer to a modern chicken bowl that you'll see in central Tokyo. Back to me on the ground, about to visit the second ramen shop for the day. Alrighty, so I'm walking over to ramen shop number 2, and this place is called Chukasoba Yasaka. And what they're famous for is a Hachioji style soy sauce or shoyu ramen. Now what this means is a whole lot of chopped onions, not spring onions or negi, which is normally the topping in ramen. It's also going to be a little bit punchy because they use a fair amount of pork lard. Now the owner at this place was born and raised in Hachioji. Very proud of that fact. I'm expecting a fantastic bowl in this Hachioji ramen style. Chukasoba Yasaka is closer to Nishi Hachioji Station, which is a brisk 30-minute walk from where we left off at our first ramen shop, N. You could also take the train from Hachioji Station to Nishi Hachioji Station, which will shave off more than 10 minutes. I like walking though, so that's how I'm getting there. I have arrived at Chukasoba Yasaka. Their Hachioji style ramen starts at 660 yen. Even after a 100 yen egg, it's only 760 yen. And here is their beautiful Hachioji style ramen. I decide to order another bowl because why not? The bowl is a pork back fat ramen with thick and flat noodles. Completely different ramen experience, but you still have the signature Hachioji onions. Here are my thoughts on these two bowls. Okay, I'm taking a little coffee break before we head to our next ramen shop. But here are my thoughts on ramen shop number 2. So he again does a bowl of Hachioji style ramen. What that means is a fair amount of pork lard and also onions, making the broth pop a little bit. Now there was a certain richness coming from those pork bones and the pork lard, but it wasn't overpowering. Now those raw onions, when you crunch into them, they offset that broth, and that raw onion taste kind of lingers on your tongue a little bit. It's interesting with that lardier broth and then the sweetness and freshness coming from those onions, those two worlds colliding. And we had thin noodles with nice bite to them. But I got one more ramen bowl there, and that was the ramen with more pork back fat, or seabura in Japanese. Just the right amount of pork back fat. In this one, it was smooth tasting, added a little bit of sweetness to the broth. What was really refreshing in that broth was the ginger that they added. That ginger kind of cut through that fattiness in there. Now, the noodles in this one were much thicker than the other bowl. I tend to like thick noodles, so this one definitely had me in terms of the noodles. So I'm gonna be visiting one more Hachioji ramen spot. And to be transparent, it is a similar style to the last shop that we visited, whereas they're doing a Hachioji style with onions on top. But what I think will be fun about this place is it's got a much older school vibe. Locals love it, and I'm excited to go. And when I say older school, I mean it. The ramen shop is Goemon, and they've been going strong since 1959. They confidently only sell one ramen, or Chukasoba. The only thing that changes are the toppings. The pork bone and fish-powered Chukasoba starts at just 600 yen. You're probably like, I'm seeing a pattern here, soy sauce and onions. This is definitely the case in Hachioji. Goemon goes through 13 kilos or 28 pounds of onions every day. Beautifully simple ramen and adored by locals. Besides the Chukasoba, I order their gyoza or fried dumplings at 350 yen. Now, I'm gonna give my thoughts on this ramen shop, but from Mount Takao. Mount Takao, again, is a terrific hiking spot with gorgeous scenery that makes it hard to believe you're still in the city of Tokyo. The station closest to the mountain is Takao Sanguchi, and it's about 15 minutes on the train from Nishi Hachioji Station. But I thought it would be more epic if I reviewed the ramen shop somewhere more out of the ordinary. It's not every day I get to review ramen shops while on a chairlift, but why not? Mount Takao is nearby, and it's a great hike or chairlift ride to the top if you want to do so. Now, the last ramen shop that we visited also did that kind of Hachioji style, onion style soy sauce ramen, or at this place as they call it, Chukasoba. Chukasoba is basically an older style of ramen. You could definitely see the simplicity and the old school approach to the way it's presented, also in the way it tasted. But I would say that this bowl was a little bit less pork lardy, and you definitely got more of that onion flavor in the broth. It was a little bit sweeter, almost as if the onions were seeping into it more. Other than that, yeah, a lot of similarities, but delicious bowl. I love the old school feel of the inside and also the outside. Very friendly staff too. What a dramatic way to end the day here on top of Mount Takao. Technically not the top, but basically where the chairlift dropped me off. I'm not gonna go all the way to the top today, but if you visit in the future, it's a beautiful hike to the top. Now, from the 3 ramen shops that we visited and each of the individual bowls, let me know which one was your favorite, which one you want to try the most. I hope you enjoyed this video. If that's the case, please hit that like button. Thanks a lot for joining. This is Frank from 5 AM Ramen signing out and reminding you that Tokyo, Hachioji included, is the only city in the world where you can have awesome ramen at 5 AM. Thanks for joining. Mount Takao is nearby, and it's a great place